This is so cool. I haven't done many of these live presentations, so I always kind of get excited when I get to do them because you never know what's going to happen or what I'll forget to do and set up. Like tonight, I wasn't quite sure if I was going to StreamYard or Restream or where I was going, but hey, I'm here. So welcome. And this is all about a purposeful discussion. And it's all about finding your purpose and even self healing, because those are the messages and those are the insights given in the two books that were launched last week via Advanced Energetics. And those I get insights from, known as the elders. So I welcome your input. And if you want to enter anything into the chat, if you're listening in or happen in, I'd love to have a discussion and to answer any questions that you might have. But let me start off by saying that your purpose is a bigger deal than you might realize. And so often when I used to stop and wonder what my purpose was, I would get redirected by the mind and I would get the insights that what I was looking for was a waste of time and how difficult it would be to discover this purposeful thing. And why was I doing this anyway? And what's the point of it all? And what I want you to know is that when you get that misdirection, when you get that kind of rerouting from what you had intended to do, that you might look at it and recognize that it's a bigger deal than you might realize at this point in time. But I've grown to understand the value and the significance of what this is. And I can say it's probably the most important thing that you might connect to in this lifetime. Now, I don't mean to take away from family and from different obligations that you may have, but know that within life, there are always choices that are made. There are always choices that you can align to enact or not. Free will is a big component here. And so there's never a final say on what you will or won't do until you actually do it or not. And so your purpose and the purpose that we talk about isn't the life purpose. And many talk about the life purpose. And there is a life purpose. But the life purpose is as a spoke on a wheel. And you imagine that the wheel is the original purpose. And so if you came into physical form and wanted to understand something that you could not understand when you were spiritual essence, before your spiritual essence took a soul, and a soul is a means of encapsulation for that spiritual essence. So before that time, spiritual essence doesn't feel as we feel in the physical plane and on this physical earth. And so what does it mean to love? What does it mean to be of service? What does it mean to feel one way or the other in life or in general if you don't really experience what the feeling feels like? And so that's why this life is meant to be felt. This life is meant to be experienced and recognized and felt, because it's the feeling component that gives you the understanding of what it is that you wanted to understand or that your soul wanted to understand and the reason that you're here. So if you believe that you have a purpose, I would say that you do. And it is a bigger objective because we've lost the awareness of why we're here. Haven't you wondered what the point of it all is and why we feel so strongly about this thing or that thing or enacting one thing or another? And it's all about getting to what it is that you wanted to understand, that your soul wanted to understand, and you are connected to your soul in a deeper, more significant way. But it's all about making that connection, making that realization, and living in a conscious sort of way so that you recognize the thoughts that you keep. You recognize so much more than you might have without that realization. So my name is Robin Locke, and I get insights from the elders. And I'll describe them as beings of pure consciousness and infinite awareness. And I am exceedingly blessed because when I have a question, I pause and ask. And when I'm aligned in their energy, I can get the answer. And so, what I'll say is that I bridge consciousness, and it's bridging consciousness with another sort of consciousness and bringing the two into alignment so that I can bring insights into this dimension. And that's what I did with the books that were released not last week, last Thursday, October 20th. And the books are behind me. One is called Awaken, The Definitive Guide to Transformative Change. And the other is The Greater Purpose, Awaken to Your Reason for Being. And they're incredible books. I'm a little biased, but I'm simply the recipient of the information. I wish I could claim that I wrote it individually. But what I do is I pause and I clear the mind and I ask for insights and I allow and wait, and then I write them down. And these books were actually, well, one was given, one was given and I wrote it down, and the other was given orally and I recorded it and then transcribed it. So I'll just say that I live in what I'd consider a little bit of a magical sort of life. Not that it's perfect by any regard. I've had a lot of, let's say, ups and downs. But what I try to do, I had something that happened last Friday where someone left that was working for me. And I tried to look at the positive aspect. And I was so grateful for this individual and so grateful for all that they brought to my life. And so instead of feeling kind of woe is me and how could they leave, and it was actually not this past Friday, but the Friday before my book launch that they left. And all I could think of was what a difference they made in my life and how grateful I was that they were in my life for whatever amount of time that they were there. And so I know that sometimes you can't look at things in the best light. And sometimes you just have to get through the occurrence of the situation to kind of look back and see what the gift was. But I could immediately see the gift that this individual brought because I didn't feel I didn't feel fearful that I didn't have him at the helm because he had taught me so much about my website and all the different things that he had instructed me on. So all I felt was gratitude that I had gotten to know him for even a little bit of time. And then he's reached out since then and has been instrumental in helping me in a number of different ways. So I just feel gratitude in that. And isn't it better to take the stance and the posture of being grateful for something rather than being in the woe is me, I'm poor, pitiful me, or this circumstance isn't what I wanted and I feel so bad about it? Isn't it better to look at the positive aspect and recognize the value that anyone brings into your life for any amount of time, and that you can kind of pause and put everything else on the back burner, so to speak, so that you embrace the better part of things? Anyway, that's what I try to do. And so I just know that my life is different because of his assistance. So as I move forward and move to embrace, new understandings and look to bring new support into my little world here, I know that there are so many components that build and grow upon the other. And what I believe too is that you attract the individual that is in energy alignment or is in energetic alignment with where you are within this life. So with everything, the law of attraction works, and it works to draw to you what you're aligned with. And so isn't it a great thing when you can see the benefit and the wonderment and the just the awesomeness of an individual who has helped to lift you up, maybe just a bit here and there. So that's the way I choose to look at life, and I'm grateful for that because it makes me feel good, and it doesn't make me feel I don't wanna be in that poor pitiful me state of mentality, because it doesn't serve anything or anyone, and it actually would draw back more of that sort of energy to me. So I choose to focus on the energy that I want drawn back and coming back into me through the law of attraction. So that's kind of the way I live my life. I also want to invite you to go to advancedenergetics.org, which is the website that everything is kind of funneled through. And in it, you can sign up to get 10 steps to transformative change. And I really encourage you to get it because bad things happen to us all the time. It's just the way it is. And really, it's meant for a means of direction to be given. Because how would you know that you need to choose maybe a different path than you're on today if you didn't have direction and guidance that gives you or kind of pushes you maybe sometimes to make a different choice than the status quo in which you exist? So what I'll say is that sometimes we get into that space where it's not a space that we prefer, and then the mind takes hold and it starts to engage us in negative mental chatter. And so these 10 steps help you to stay anchored so that you can, in essence, displace the mind in its ramblings and get through that time in a better mental space by quieting the mind, stilling the mind. You know, I hear all the time that it's very difficult to meditate, and it's simply because it's difficult to slow and stop the mind. And if you haven't tried to do so, if you haven't stopped and tried to bring in a different sort of energy into that upper head area, which I suggest that everybody try, then you'll find it more difficult to stop and slow the mind when you're under assault, really, from the mind, when something bad happens. And so these 10 steps that I talked about are a great building block to start to develop a pathway. And it's really to start to develop a muscle. And that muscle will strengthen and grow as you grow the ability to harness the thoughts that you keep and you redirect the thoughts that you don't like, the thoughts that make you feel bad, to different thoughts. Because you have a choice to marinate in the thought that you don't like or to marinate in a thought that you do. And so you simply release the thought that you don't like and you bring in a different thought, one that makes you feel good. And really, it's rather simple. But when you're under assault from the mind, in its many judgments, its many accusations, its many assertions, if you haven't worked on your practice before, when you get into a serious situation, one that you don't perhaps like, it's much easier to still the mind if you've worked at it when the times are calmer, when there are calm times underfoot. But if you wait until you're under assault to try to develop that muscle, you'll find that the mind has a pretty good stronghold on you, and it will be much more difficult to reel it in if you haven't developed that muscle a bit. So I would recommend that you sign up, get on our subscriber list, and get our updates weekly. We send out updates every Wednesday, and it's usually an update that corresponds to an insight given by the elders via the YouTube channel. So there's a YouTube channel that's also called Advanced Energetics, and you can go there and hear one of many recordings and videos that talk about how to still and slow the mind, that talk about how to release beliefs, that talk about a myriad of things, give excerpts from our books, provide insights that the elders give. So often I don't know what they're going to give, and it's always fun to hear their update. And so often I'll ask questions and they'll respond to those questions, or I'll ask for a greater insight and they'll give greater insights. And so it's a journey, it's a discovery. It's simply all a gift. So I just wanted to kind of pop in and give a few minutes of an update. I had someone, well, Prudence was going to be joining me today and wasn't able to. So I wanted to go ahead and come on and see what we could do as far as giving some updates here, and to see if there were any questions that would come in that we could address. And so as we develop this and we start building more of a following and building more of a repertoire of getting questions and then providing answers, I look for this platform to grow and to become a greater resource so that you can utilize this as your time affords you to be able to do so. So this is just another expanding outreach that we're trying and seeing how it works and offering, so that you might utilize this as a means to get answers to your questions. The other thing that I wanted to address was the Awaken book. The Awaken book is all about healing your body and energetically removing those things that are stored within that are the beginnings of disease and illness. So when you don't feel something that feels bad, that energy isn't what I would say perhaps aligned energy. And so when it isn't felt, it is stored, because universe says, well, you came here to feel your way through this life and you didn't feel this thing that you must want to feel, because that's why you're here. So we'll store this energy in your body so that you have easy and close access to it, so that when you're ready to feel it, when you're ready to acknowledge it, it will be right there and you can just do so. But what happens over time when you don't align with that energy, or you don't feel it, you may not align with it, but you don't feel it, you don't choose to feel it, then it is beginnings of disease and illness as we age. And it's not so much of it being that we get older, but it's that the energy has been nestled within for quite a time and it changes over time. And so this book is the means of releasing negative energy and moving it in and out and through and beyond, so that you don't have to deal with that energy anymore when you release it. And so your later years become more carefree because you don't have those diseases that otherwise remain within and transform into something that you don't perhaps want. The other book I'll mention is The Greater Purpose, and The Greater Purpose is the Purpose Trilogy. It's the 3 little books that I've received over the last number of years, and they've been combined together because together they are the definitive book to enact and really find your original purpose, because it is the reason that you're here, and it's the reason that you chose to take embodiment, and it is to understand an energy. So your purpose isn't a thing, it's an energy that you wanted to understand, because why would you want to create anything that you can't take with you at the conclusion of your life? But of course you can take energy with you, because it's simply energy, and really everything is energy. So it's yours because you've created it, and it's the experience of being here and of understanding what this Earth platform and this Earth journey is all about. So they're incredible books. I'm a little biased, but I still think they're very incredible. And so I welcome you to check them out on Amazon and let me know what you think. Let me know if you have questions and engage here, because we'll be doing this for quite a time, and see how it goes. See if it's engaging and if you're gaining something from it, and if I'm gaining something from it, and if we're working in alignment together. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I think this is a nice amount of time to have covered just a little overview of what we want to accomplish within this live stream. It's very exciting. And I look forward to being back next week, next Wednesday at 8 o'clock, and hope that you'll be able to join if you're here tonight. And if you're seeing this afterwards, I hope that you will come in live and then ask some questions, and we'll do our best to answer them, or I'll ask the elders to engage and give your answer. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful evening, and thank you for checking us out at advancedenergetics.org.